Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Today we're learning about simple interest. So interest is a financial mathematics term, and it can mean two things. It can mean when you borrow money from, say, a bank, interest is the extra money you have to pay back to the bank. Or when you invest money in a bank, the interest is the money that the bank gives you, and usually this is written as a percentage. So you pay interest to the bank when you borrow money, and you earn interest when you invest money. So this is just an application of percentages. So let's start with an example. So let's say I invest $5,000 at a bank and I receive 7% per annum interest, and we're just looking at simple interest. So first thing that is really important for you to know is that this part here, PA, per annum, means per year. It's exactly the same thing. So you'll see this abbreviation a lot in financial mathematics, so please make sure you understand it. So if I invest $5,000 at a bank, each year that I leave that money in there, the bank is going to give me 7% of the amount that I invested. They're going to pay me money to invest that money, because then they can use it to lend to other people or do other things, right? So 7% of $5,000. We know how to do this from previous lesson. So 7% of 5,000, we just go 7 over 100, or if you like 0.07 times 5,000. So that equals $350. So every year that I leave that original 5,000 in the bank will give me an extra $350. So after 1 year in my account, I will have $5,350. Then in the second year, I'll earn another $350, and I'll now have $5,700 in the bank. So they're giving me money there. So we want to be able to ask ourselves how much money I will have, or how much interest I will have earned after a certain period of time. So it turns out there's a formula that we can use that is really, really helpful. So the formula here, it has a lot of letters in it, 4 letters. I equals P times R times T over 100. You may see this written different ways. You may see it written P times R over 100 times T, but they're the same, exact same formula and exact same calculations, and it doesn't matter whether you use capital R or capital T or whatever. I'm not concerned at all about that. So we have to understand what these letters actually mean. So in the formula, P is principal. So it's not actually the school principal. It's not principal as in you have principals. It's principal as in how much you originally invested. So if I invested $5,000 at a bank, the principal in this case would be $5,000, how much you originally invested. Of course, if the question's about borrowing money, the principal would be the amount you originally borrowed. Now R is the rate. So that's the percentage thing that you talked about. So in here I've got 7% interest, so R is 7, and T is the time, and it's usually in years. I, of course, is just the interest, okay? So if you want to copy down what these things mean, please pause the video and do so now. So I'm going to go on and figure out how much money I would have in my account at any given time. Okay, so using this example, I invested $5,000 at 7% per annum, and now I'm going to ask how much interest will I have earned in 6 years. So I use the formula I just gave you, I equals principal times rate times time divided by 100. So in this case, I told you principal is how much I started with, R is the rate, so in this case 7. Now the time, usually in years, is 6 for 6 years. So I just go 5,000 times 7 times 6 divided by 100. So if I put that into my calculator, I should get $2,100. So that means if I invest $5,000 at 7% per annum and I leave it there for 6 years, I will earn from the bank $2,100 in interest. They will give me an extra $2,100. So if I'm asked how much money I have in my account, I have the original amount that I invested, which is $5,000, plus the amount of interest that I earned. So in my account, I would have the $5,000 plus the interest, so I'd have $7,100. So that's the amount equals the interest plus principal, how much you started with. Okay, I'm now going to do another example to illustrate to you that it's important that R and T are in the same unit. So if you want to copy down this example, please pause the video and do so now. Okay, so the question I'm going to look at is I borrowed $2,000 at 12.5% per annum simple interest, and I want to know how much interest I will have to pay back after 30 months. So I will have to pay back the $2,000 plus an extra amount of interest. So firstly, we need to understand that we use the same formula and same process for simple interest, whether you're investing, like in the last question, or whether I'm borrowing, like in this question. So we're going to use the same formula, I equals PRT over 100. So I'm going to try and figure out the interest. So I know that the principal is how much I start with. So in this case, it's just 2,000. So I'm going to change P to 2,000. So R, the rate, in this case, it's a decimal, but there's nothing wrong with that, 12.5. And then you probably think, okay, T, 30 months, I'll change that to 30 and divide 100. The problem with doing that is that R was in per annum, so the rate is per year, but this is in months. So that doesn't make any sense. I'm not getting 12.5% every month, I'm getting it every year. So when R and T are in different units, you need to change them so they are in the same units. So what I suggest is, because R will usually be given in per annum, per year, years, not always, but it will usually be given in years. If T is not in years, then you need to change it to years. So it's important that you do that, because if R and T are in different units, you won't get the right answer. So make sure you know how to change things from another time to years. So for example, there are 12 months in a year. So if I want to change months to years, I divide by 12. Similarly, there are 365 days in a year. So if I want to change days to years, I divide by 365. Sometimes the questions will talk about quarters, because in business they usually have to report every quarter, so that is a quarter of a year or 3 months. So if the time is given in quarters, you need to divide by 4 to change to years. So make sure you're comfortable doing this, because sometimes you will have to change the time into years. So let's get back to the question up here. So I have I equals PRT over 100, that's right. But my next line of working was wrong. It's principal times rate times time, yes. However, I need to make sure that T is in years instead of months. So if I get rid of that 30, I don't want to know how many months T is, I want to know how many years. So 30 months, I need to change that to years by dividing by 12. 30 divided by 12, you can just do on your calculator, is 2.5. So 30 months is the same as 2.5 years. So now, this is no longer in months, it's in years. So everything's cool. I can just put this on my calculator. So I put on my calculator 2,000 times 12.5 times 2.5, and then divide by 100. And I get $625. So I would have to pay back the 2,000 plus 625. So sometimes you'll be asked to find a monthly repayment. So I have to pay back a total of 2,625. So I have to pay back 2,000 plus the interest, which is 2,625. Now, it said in the question I might want to pay that back over 30 months. So if I want to find out how much I would need to pay every month, that would just be the total amount I owe divided by how many months I have to pay it back. And if I put that on my calculator, I get $87.50. So if I borrow $2,000 at 12.5% per annum simple interest, after 30 months, I will owe $2,625, so I will need to pay back $87.50 so that the loan is paid off within the 30 months. Hope you enjoyed this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.